After I finished last week's program on and series on the evolution of stone tools, I really didn't have much to basically present. Then nothing new has something new has arrived because I'm doing a show today on new developments. I'm going to be a little bit different from usually. I'm just going to show you some articles on archaeology and on science, etc. I won't read most of it. I'll just talk about them while I show the actual article. Um, it'll give you guys a chance to actually read them. Of course, I will explain, and the links are always in the description. So, as Philip DeFranco would say, let's just dive right into them. I think that's what he says. I keep forgetting what he says, but never mind. Let's share the screen. The first one is a story that I read this week. It's in Spanish, but when you open it, it has the option that you can translate the page, and it's the translation is more than good, more than adequate. It's quite okay, and it deals with the new discovery that they found some volcanic archipelago that linked Iberia or Europe to Africa in North Africa, and it's sunk in the Alboran region, and it was due to volcanic activity around 10 million years ago, and that volcanic activity created these archipelagos that started sinking around 6 million years ago. So there must have been various instances of a land bridge between two continents, the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa. Asia, no, wrong place. Why is this significant? It's not as much significant to the human lineage or even the hominins, but it does present a corridor where animals could regularly walk through. Plus, I have a video, and if my regular viewers would remember, last year, it was 2017, yes, or even 2016, 2017, there was an article on, I think it was The Guardian Science, where the title was our Humans Evolved in Europe, and they presented a hominid of around 8-ish million years ago. No, it was earlier. It was 22 million years ago. So, nope, wrong place. But anyway, it would not present the land bridge for hominids to pass unless they would have been habilis, maybe very early erectus. Erectus evolved around 1.8 million years ago, and that's when this archipelago finally submerged. And just read a little bit. The scientific team from the High Council of Scientific Research, that's in Spanish, has discovered the volcanic archipelago submerged in the Alboran Sea. You can see the map. That's just south of Almeria and north of Melilla. Melilla is the Spanish enclave in Africa, one of the two Spanish enclaves in Africa. The other one is, never mind, can't remember it, it's not important. There were this archipelago, as I said, emerged around 10 million years ago due to volcanic activity, because at that time Africa was still slamming into Europe, by the way. So it caused the Alps to grow, etc., and also rose sea levels and so there would have been a lot of volcanic activity in the general area, and it caused this rising and volcanic activity creating this archipelago led to what is known as the see if I can remember it, the Mediterranean salinity crisis. And what does that mean? That there was no water coming from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean Sea, etc., etc., and it dried up various times in its history. And we know that because if you dig under the under the Mediterranean Ocean Sea, you will find layers and layers, huge amount of sand of salt deposits. So that is one article that I've found. Interestingly, if I will let you guys read the comments below, because they have absolutely nothing to do with the article. Apparently, this newspaper, 20 Minutos, is fascist. So I'll let you guys read the comment. They just, I laughed my head off when I saw them. And yeah, this land bridge is quite significant because some of the animals, just quickly, some of the animals that crossed over from one side to the other was giraffes, or else. They would show that the European species to Africa were made several times before and after the salinity crisis. Maybe thanks to this Albaran archipelago. Where else? Where's the animals? Liberia. Anyway, animals crossed over from one side to the other, and they know from studying some of the DNA from various species, both in the African and in the Iberian place. Now, this was funny. This was an interesting article. The next one is apparently Neanderthals could voyage the Mediterranean. You guys know I love the Neanderthals, and this was interesting to me, but it's not surprising. They found in Greek islands of Crete. I'll just go down to the place in Crete, in Naxos, in Lemnos, in Kefalonia, and Zakynthos. They found possibly Masturian tools. They haven't been able to really date them quite accurately, but they sort of fit in with the Masturian toolkits. And I've talked about Masturian before. You guys should check out my videos about the Masturian technology, the Masturian culture. They were they were Neanderthals, and that made them. And in these Greek islands, which were never connected to the mainland of Europe, etc., they found these tools. Now, is that surprising? No, because in my other videos which I've made, if you guys want to remember or not, I have shown that Erectus has made voyages. We find Homo erectus fossils in Java, which was never connected to the mainland of Europe. We find them in other islands in Indonesia, etc. So they would have had to have crossed some water. Did they deliberately make vessels to cross those bodies of water? We don't know. Possibly. It's a hypothesis. And also, around 200,000 years ago, if you guys remember some of my videos about interbreeding with Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, etc., that I said that there were 3 episodes of our admixing with the Neanderthals. One of them came from Iberia, Western Europe, and they did not go around the Mediterranean, so they must have crossed the Gibraltar area, which is the closest sea distance. Did we, our species, use vessels? Sure. Could Neanderthals also have used vessels? Why not? It's a hypothesis. I do hope they do find some vestiges or even some evidence, be it just tenuous evidence that they did build some crafts, etc., because it would be awesome. So I'm going on record that they may find one day some sort of water crossing vessel linked to the Neanderthals in some way, even if it's just an imprint in some deposits, archaeological deposits of some sort of vessel that they can't explain, and then they realize that it is a possible raft or something. It would have been a raft, something, or even a couple of logs just tied together, something like that. So yes, this was quite interesting, and yes, the article is from this year, so it's a very interesting read. Now, the next article comes from the Daily Mail, and here again, am I trying to debunk some stupid writing from so-called journalists? Notice the headline: Did woolly mammoths go extinct because of osteoporosis? 16,200 years ago. A 16,200-year-old vertebrae gorged by a spear, hence bone weakening may have been a key factor in the death of the species. Now, first of all, this is one sample, one, right? Second of all, it says osteoporosis, which is the weakening of the bones, calcium deficiency, etc., was one of the causes. Yet, this same sample seems to have been attacked by humans. Now, I'm not one to say that it was the spear that killed the animal. Could have been just brittle bones, you know. But there are enough mammoths, specimens, bones, even complete carcasses, or etc. I mean, I'm talking about carcasses, not even fossils of these majestic animals, to give an idea that maybe this is a little bit of a far-flung hypothesis. If they find, or if they study all of the available material and they find even more material that proves their hypothesis, I'll be the first one to accept it. But they must put the evidence there, and I'm very very skeptical of this. So I have, in fact, the study linked in the description, so you guys can see, and also the first one I talked about on the land bridge between Iberia, Spain, and Africa. I have also the actual study linked in the description. But you know, I'm taking this with a grain of salt. They need the problem with scientific papers, and the way they publicize them. They get idiots that write totally. They don't understand what they're writing about, and that's unfortunate. So yes, I expect this individual did probably have osteoporosis, but probably most likely did not lead to their extinction. So yeah. Now, leading on to this, as I said, that they have found many more specimens, including complete carcasses, preserved, frozen samples, individuals of mammoths, and they could be one day possibly clone them. Well, in Siberia, this comes all from Siberia, due to the climate change, which is real. It is real. We are causing it. I'm of the opinion that it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't care what the fearmongers say, in the propaganda fearmongers say. I welcome climate change, even though it will bring about extremes in weather, really cold and really hot, etc., etc. It will balance out. It's been climate has been changing on Earth since its inception. Why can't we live in a climate, a warm climate, like the dinosaurs enjoyed, or the early Pleistocene, when mammals started after the extinction of the dinosaurs? When mammals started to evolve, the temperature was much higher than it is now, and forests covered the whole world basically. And there was no ice in the poles, for example, or the high mountains. Well, some of the high mountains came later, but that's not the point. Why can't we enjoy such lovely weather? That's, I'm fine with that. But anyway, they've due to the melting of the permafrost in Siberia, they have been finding complete not even skeletons, complete examples of long dead animals. The woolly mammoth is one, and we have here a young foal, a horse. He's completely, really preserved. He was found in 2013, by the way, and he's been dated to around 30,000 to 40,000 years ago. I'm not going to play the video. You guys can play the video because I don't have a way to show this. I don't have a way to make the sound, so you guys can have a look at it at your leisure. Basically, they found this calf, and scientists in Russia and elsewhere are really thinking about cloning it. And I'm all for it. Damn, I'd love for them to clone mammoths, the woolly rhino. Possibly if they could find a good some other examples of animals that could survive today. Others will not, of course. Dinosaurs will never survive because you can't really get the complete DNA specimen, but we can get enough DNA material from these individuals who have been frozen than we get from others. And if they do clone them, it'd be fine. They would be close to the Przeletsky horse. I can't read. It's a Polish name. There's a breed of horse, says, from that they've reintroduced or rebred. That were the ancient steep horses of the glacial maximum, the Paleolithic period. That would be what this little foal would look like, and it's Lena's horse, or Equus lenensis. So that's an exciting thing to look forward to, and they could just introduce the fertilized eggs, the clone of the eggs, into a modern, not a modern horse, but possibly a pony or even the Przeletsky horse. I think I'm saying it wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's got that name for it anyway. So yeah. They've found many, like I said, frozen woolly mammoths in Siberia. They found a extinct cave lion they found in Siberia in 2015, and even possibly a pygmy woolly mammoth that could be a new species in Kotelny Island. That one is in fact the youngest samples we have. They're very close to 10,000 years, 8,000-ish years ago when it died. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is, I will keep an eye on these developments, right? So to end this, because today I'm not doing a lot, to end this, today was the third anniversary of the discovery of a new Homo species, Homo genus, species, I should say, a new hominin, Homo naledi. He was found in the Danaledi chamber in the Rising Star Cave in South Africa. And it's been 3 years. 3 years ago, we did not know this species existed. And what is interesting is he was about 1.5 meters height on average, around 45 kilos. His skull was primitive, as the summary says here. It was very similar to Homo habilis. His capacity, the cranial capacity, was 466 to 560 cc, which compared to habilis was 510 to 700 cc's, erectus 550 to 1100 cc's, and floriensis 426 cc's. So he's an enigma, and more than that, he is an enigma because the individuals or the samples that they are finding and they are dating them, they are dated to around 250-ish thousand years ago. What does that mean? It means that they were contemporary to possibly our species, if our species can be dated to around 350,000 years ago. 350,000 is one of the most oldest dates, but around 300,000 years ago. So between 300,000 and 260,000 years ago, in Africa, they lived among our species. And now we have two samples, as Chris Springer, as the Dr. Chris Springer, and what's his name? The doctor that discovered this. He works in South Africa. I can't remember the archaeologist's name. I'm terrible at names. I apologize to the archaeologist. But around that time, there were two species of humans, of humans, that were producing tools. And now, who produced? Because they also produced tools, and they produced tools that were, to say they were possibly Alduin tools, and Alduin tools were produced at least in Africa, by our species. Masturian, if you don't remember, in Eurasia, Alduin, Acheulean tools, I should say. I'm sorry, Acheulean tools. Acheulean tools were produced up until Neanderthals produced the Masturian tools. So, did these little people also produce tools that could be classified as Acheulean? We shall see. There's ongoing excavations. They've discovered a second chamber. I don't have the video. It's in here. The video. Lee Berger. That's the Lee Berger. Thank you, Roberto Sainz, for placing the archaeologist's name. I'm terrible at names. There's videos here and pictures. Here are some of the. This individual, which is very complete, is called Neo. And here are some pictures. You guys can have a look at them at your leisure. But as I said, they found two new caves: the Lesedi cave, the Lesedi chamber in the the Rising Star cave in South Africa. So they will find many more examples of these individuals. So basically, I end here, and I end the list of presentation. So how have you guys been? A little bit of see if there's any questions and so on. No, Davey, the oxygen count went up and down, up and down, up and down all through geological time. Around 50 million years ago, when I was giving that example after the extinction of the dinosaurs, when the mammals were starting to rise, the oxygen was, of course, there was slightly more than we have now, but not much more. And that's why the forests then grew and so on. But yeah, but it's mainly problems with the carbon dioxide. That's the one that gives you a rise and lowering of the temperature, the climate. And if industrialization hadn't occurred, and if what we are doing now, we are in an interstadial of an ice age. We have not ended our ice age. We are in between cold periods, and we are now in one of the longest living cold periods that can be seen, and that has been measured in by the ice samples, etc. So maybe we should have been already cooling down, maybe, but it would take a long time, because we know from the past record, animals adapted to the increasing temperature. It wasn't there were in between really cold snaps as hot periods of time as well. Even within the glacial maximum, there were periods of really warm um, phases that lasted half a decade, for example. We know from the ice samples. So yeah, basically that. Anything else? Oh, just I hope she listens to this if she gets to the end. Giovanna Liviana, she was the first to comment, but her comment was erased. I don't know why. When I first put up the announcement, she was the first to comment. So yeah. And anyway, hello Malefis, hello Davey, hello Neeb, dear friends. John, we talked a little bit. So yes. Well, this brings us to the end. We'll see what happens next. Until our next my next broadcast, as it says here, Google Hangout says here. Cheerio and good night to everyone.